2022, something.
July.
14th this July. I have good notes. Okay. Okay, we call this July 14th, 2022 meeting of the AMATS Technical Advisory Committee to order. It is 2:31. Darren, will you do the roll call?
Of course, Katie Duper is in for Brian Lindemoon today for the railroad. Matt Stitchick,
Matt is out. This is his supervisor, Darcy Harris, at the Health Department.
oh yes, thank you for joining us, I appreciate it.
You bet, thank you.
Stitchick. Steve Rebuffo. Like he is out, Cindy Heil is on her way. Kent Colhayes. Is he still out though?
He's in the building.
Okay, so he's late. Luke Boland.
Here.
Todd Van Hope.
Present.
Brad Coy.
Here.
Shannon Kilcoyne.
Present.
Bart Rudolph for Jamie Acton. Here. And Craig Lyon.
Here.
Hey, we have quorum.
Okay, great. Would you also do the public involvement announcement?
Of course, AMATS committee meetings are open to the public and the public is provided an opportunity to comment at each meeting. Business items are presented by staff or consultants. Then afterwards, the committee has a chance to ask questions. And then the public is invited to formally comment. Each participant will have 3 minutes to speak and I'll have a little timer. And then it'll go back to the committee for decision. A couple of housekeeping items. If you're joining us virtually and you're not a member of the committee, please turn your camera off when you're not speaking on an item. And if you're joining us by phone, to mute and unmute the microphone, press *6. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Before us, we have approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion? Agenda.
So moved. Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Lyon, second by Mr. Van Hope. I do know that we have some changes. We have the Fish Creek Trail project update, correct?
I would like to add that on there, but I do not see the project manager here, so I'm going to send him a quick email about it in case he wants to join electronically. But yes, I'd like to add it to the agenda, and if not, we can delay it to the next month.
We'll add it to 6B,
Yes.
and if he's not here, we'll skip it. If he is, we'll get it up and ready to go for it. Okay, so that's the Fish Creek Trail project update.
Yes.
Okay, are there any objections to approving the agenda as amended? Hearing none, agenda is approved. Okay, we have before us the June 9th, 2022 minutes. It's not this meeting, that was last meeting. Do we have a motion to approve it?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Van Ho, seconded by Mr. Boland. Do we have any objections? Do we have any changes?
One small change.
Okay.
On page 5 of 13 under item C, Carol Fink, her first name is actually Kay, spelled with a K, Carol with a K.
Perfect. Okay, other changes? Any objections to approving the minutes as amended? Okay, hearing none, the June 9th, 2022 minutes are approved. Moving on to agenda items 5A. This is the action item on the, do you spell that out? You just say FED or PHED?
PhD.
PhED.
Kind of whatever.
Okay. I know most acronyms, that's a new one for me, so.
I'm excited to talk about it today, so.
The PhED targets from the Department of Transportation.
So thank you all very much. I'll be the one giving quick on this one. So this is another performance measure that AMATS is required by FHWA to adopt a target for. It falls in the CMAQ category, the congestion mitigation air quality category. It's one of 2 targets that we'll be bringing to you. The next one is the non-single occupancy vehicle. I hope to bring that probably not next month, but the month after. So this is the peak hour excessive delay target. It is probably the most complicated target out of all of them. Because it has very rigorous equations that you have to use in order to be able to figure it out. But basically, my understanding of it, and if anyone has better, please correct me, is It is the delay that is experienced during peak hour that is excessive. So the delay that causes you to either go 20 miles an hour or less, or 60% of the posted speed limit or less. So on the Glen Highway at 65 miles an hour, if there's delay causing you to go 39 miles an hour or less or slower, that is considered excessive delay. And so this is for the entire, oh, good, Matt's here. This is for the entire NHS system only. So this is not including non-NHS routes. It's only the NHS system as required in the regulations. So a little bit of background on this, urban, as it's in the memo here, urbanized areas of 200,000 or greater that fall within the non-attainment or maintenance areas for ozone, carbon monoxide, or PM10, PM2.5 are required to set a target for this measure. As AMATS does fall within that category, we are required to set a measure for it. And Mr. Rebuffo is. And so, unlike other performance measures, this performance measure is pretty unique because it requires DOTs and MPOs to set a unified target. This is not DOT setting one and then AMATS deciding if they want to support it or set their own target. We have to set the same target together. So for this target, AMATS staff and DOT met to discuss the measures, review the data from, as you can see here, 2019 to 2021 time periods, as well as this examining external factors that can help lead to a decrease or increase in the peak hour excessive delay. And as you can see on the attached memo from DOT, the peak hour excessive delay was 9.5 hours in 2021. So based on some external factors, the most prevalent being the fact that COVID really showed a decrease or had a decrease in vehicular traffic, but that increase is being swept away as COVID kind of winds down and traffic is returning back to pre-COVID levels. So there was some concern about setting a low target using the COVID data. And so we're recommending a little bit of an increased target up to 11 hours for the 2-year mark and 12 hours for the 4-year mark. And what that allows us to do is kind of wait until things stabilize a little more and then be able to set new targets for the next 2 to 4 year period. What's really cool about this is that after the 2-year mark, we are actually able to go back and reset the 4-year target if we feel that something has changed in that intervening time. So if after 2 years, we've re-looked at the data and things have actually gone back down, we can look at setting a decreasing target instead of an increasing target. I will point out that yes, it is increasing because that's how the data is showing. Similar to other performance measures, we have to set a realistic target. You know, we can't say that we're going to get 0 peak hour excessive delay when we're at 9+ as we're increasing. It has to be based on the data that we have in front of us. So our recommendation is to set these 2 targets, 11 hour for the 2-year and 12 hour for the 4-year, and then reassess after the 2-year period. I do want to note, just in case anyone is concerned, we do have these external factors that we discussed, some things that can either help or increase, decrease, or remain neutral. We have a couple things on there that we recommended neutral, such as the TSMO and the TDM projects that we're doing. Although those can help reduce excessive delay or congestion or delay in general, we haven't actually implemented those projects. We're still in the development phase of them. So we wanted to call them out as a future thing to look at and see if they can help us decrease this target down. So that's why you don't see us recommending a decrease based on those. I think that's all, and I'm here for questions. Thank you.
Okay, any questions or comments from the committee? Okay, Mr. Redhouse?
Thank you. Could you tell me what the difference between the current 11-hour 2-year target is compared to the previous targets?
Well, we didn't have previous targets.
Ever?
No.
Okay.
These are
So
brand new.
These are brand new.
Brand new,
Okay,
yep.
Thank you.
And I will point out, sorry, it's just more information, but I figured I'd give it out there. So these are new targets for us as an MPO of 200,000 or greater. So this is actually the second performance period. The first performance period started back in 2020, 2018, something like that. And MPOs of 1 million or greater that fell within this non-attainment or limited maintenance were required to set these targets. As we didn't meet that threshold, we, the state or the MPO, did not have to set those targets. So this is our first time ever setting these targets. So that's why we're kind of being a little more a little restrained in our approach until we can get a good handle on what this is gonna be like for us. And same with the state. FAST does not have to set these targets because they do not meet the threshold of population.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
So just to confirm, the external measures that are listed on page 4 of the DOT memo are just what was taken into account to set these targets.
That's correct. We used them whether we should be doing, an increasing or decreasing, based on the information there. And you'll see that we had a number of the green ones that are decreasing. But those are going to take a long time to help change. Like land use changes typically take a very long time, but we recognize that land use changes that are more infill redevelopment are going to help. So it's helping us decrease the target, but that's going to take a while to get there. And so the traffic volumes is probably one of the highest weighted ones. And we see an increasing threshold for that. And if you guys have comments, questions, or concerns about some of these external factors, please let us know. We can kind of take a look at them if need be and reassess or use them for future target setting.
On the first page, it mentions, it says EX 2021-9.5 hours. The memorandum from the state. Is that giving an example? Is that telling that that's what it was measured at?
Yes, that is what 2021 was at, it's 9.5.
Okay, and is that the only year that we have an estimate? Given this is brand new, so
Yes.
that's where we based our 11 hours and 12 hours. That's where
Correct.
they based there. Okay.
Yep.
And it's all algorithms, I'm assuming?
I don't have the calculations in front of you, but we have a number of Excel sheets that were provided to us that showed different charts kind of showing the PHED and it going down because of COVID and then kind of going back up as we're going along. So I can provide that information to the committees if you want. I'll have to check with the state first to make sure where we're at with that. But
I guess my question with regards to that is just wondering how much is it an algorithm versus something that was actually measured?
it's an algorithm.
Is there any sort of measurement that, I mean, I wouldn't know how you'd really measure it, so.
It's all algorithm based as FHWA. Like we take a lot of the data that we already collect and we input it into the formula, the complicated formula that FHWA provided as a requirement to use for this.
Depending on the type of road, depending on.
Well, it's all NHS routes, so it didn't really matter road type.
Winter condition,
It's all based on speed.
okay.
We do have a thing in here about maintenance or an external factor, winter maintenance, and we do show it as, the pressure is increasing because winter maintenance is decreasing, so that's gonna potentially negatively impact the peak hour excessive delay. So we try to account for the winter side of things, but that's not really accounted for in the equation that FHWA sets for this. That's why we developed the external factors.
Can you go ahead, Craig?
You may mention this, sorry. Is there a penalty if we don't?
So I don't believe there is a monetary penalty like with the safety targets where you have to take X percentage of the HSIP program and put it towards vulnerable users. But in the memo from DOT, there's a section, consequences of not making significant progress. And it says the state must document actions it will take to achieve targets if the actual performance level is not equal to or better than established target. So for AMATS, I don't know if there's a consequence. There typically isn't. The state is probably just going to have to go in and talk about how it's taking actions to get there. But from what I can tell, there's no actual monetary penalty at this point.
Question part?
Yeah, how do we compare to other cities of our size? Like, if we were 9.5 in 2021, what does that mean? Are other cities at like 6? Are other cities at like 20? Like,
We didn't do an analysis of other cities because it didn't really factor into this, but I did kind of look around because I was
Yeah.
trying to figure out about PHED because it's
Yeah.
super complicated. The 9.5 is pretty rough is comparable to other cities that are bigger, even bigger than us, like Boston, I looked at and they were in the 8 to 10 range, depending on which year you were looking at. The hard part is, right now, we don't really have any equivalent cities to compare with, because all equivalent cities of our size are at the same point of setting the target. Everything we have to look at is cities of 1 million or more at this point. So it's not really an equal comparison, but that is something we can do maybe at the 2-year mark when that's reported, and see, okay, now that we've actually had more cities of our size and our air quality impacts, what does it look like? Are we kind of equivalent or are we really high? That is something I will be watching. I just don't have it.
It is weird that we're setting a limit so much higher than what our actual numbers are right now. It seems like we're giving ourselves so much buffer room so that we don't hit the target, just to make us look good. But I mean, I do understand the COVID and miles. So I mean, I think it'd be important in this next 2 years after we start implementing some things to reevaluate the target, because it just seems a bit excessive right now. But I do understand the methodology behind it. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah, other questions? Did you say answer?
Well,
Okay, go ahead.
this is so minor, but because it came up, it says decreased winter maintenance funding also reflects recent warmer winters, not just fundability, indicating that warmer winters mean less maintenance, but it's actually been like more snow, more rain on snow, more freeze thaw, so it's kind of been more maintenance, at least what I'm hearing from the city. I don't know if DOT is seeing something different, but just a comment.
Yeah, I mean, I guess is warmer meaning more time in the freezing instead of the super cold,
Right.
Yeah, I do know that our maintenance staff have more challenges. That's a good question. One of the questions that I have is, what do we do to decrease this? If it's algorithmic based, then you can just look at the algorithm, right? And do we just try to decrease traffic volumes? Do we, if it's all just algorithm, it's playing with numbers more than actually something that's actually happening, maybe?
No, I mean, because people actually look at this, like FHWA, they analyze how you're decreasing it. If you're just tweaking the numbers a little, they're gonna notice and be like, you're not actually making an effort to decrease it. So doing projects that help decrease traffic volumes, such as TDM or TISMO type strategies, are gonna be key to helping decrease this number. So even at the 2-year mark, there may not be this huge drop off. It's gonna take time. But I think we just need to show the effort we're doing to help get to that decrease instead of an increase. And so I think we're getting there. We just,
And I guess by the numbers, I mean, we look at the numbers and we try to decrease those numbers, even if it's not changing actual delay, in real life, because we're not measuring actual delay in real life. It's all algorithmic. We're just trying to change the parameters so that theoretically it's decreasing.
I mean, we do measure delay, but this is excessive delay, so it's the next step above it. It's kind of the worst of the delay, so. It's excessive delay, yeah, I know.
I guess,
Kind of in the name itself, so.
I guess I'm a fan of performance measures that are actually being experienced, not ones that we're estimating based on the algorithm.
It's an FHWA required one, so we can't get out of it.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? Any questions or comments from the public? Anything on the chat? Are there any, okay, so what is the will of the committee?
Move to recommend the Fed 2-year and 4-year targets to the policy committee.
Second.
Okay, moved by Mr. Van Hove, second by Mrs. Kilcoyne. Do we have any objections? Hearing none, a motion is approved. Item 5B. Oh, yes. We should let the record show that Mr. Buffalo arrived at 2:37 and his Kyle at 251.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item 5B. The 2040 MTP amendment one. Is that going to be yours as well, Aaron?
Yes, it will. So, okay, everyone, you've kind of seen this amendment a few times now. So what's being brought before you is for final approval on the 2040 MTP amendment number one. As you may recall, we are doing this amendment because of the Alaska Energy Authority that put in an application for a build grant back in 2020 for the Alaska Cargo and Cold Storage Warehouse Facility on airport property. It's just a quick reminder, February of this year, we were alerted to this needing to be in the TIP and the MTP. So we worked diligently to get it included into both. I will be happy to announce that TIP amendment number 3 was recently approved by FHWA and FTA. So on that side of things, we're good and set, thankfully. And everyone is cheering because we've been waiting for that one. And so this is the last piece of the puzzle that needs to go into place. We need to get the MTP approved. What's different about this than other amendments we've done in the past is this doesn't actually require a transportation conformity analysis because of the type of project it is. It is not a project that touches transit or highway facilities. So it was not determined, it was determined by FHWA, it doesn't require transportation conformity. It still requires general conformity, which is done by FAA, and they still have to do their own analysis of the impact of air quality. That is being done by AEA in conjunction with a different group. I recently talked to the AEA folks and they're on it, so they're dealing with it. So this made the amendment much simpler for us. We still worked with our federal partners on this, so everyone is in the loop on it, but we are very excited to see this hopefully get approved at this meeting and then the policy committee. This was put out for a 30-day public comment period and sent through the assembly, and we received no comments on it. So it is before you all today for recommendation, hopefully, to approve it to the policy committee.
Thanks. And so AEA is Alaska Energy Authority?
Yes.
Sorry, that's all right. Any questions or comments from the committee? Do we have any questions or comments from the public? I think having seen this one so many times, I think it's pretty good. What is the will of the committee?
Move to approve. Second.
Okay, moved by Ms. Isles, seconded by Mr. Lyons. Are there any objections to approving the motion? Hearing none, the motion is approved.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is to move on to the project and plan updates. Item 6A is the transportation system management and operations for TISMO plan. Assuming we've got consultants here to do the presentation.
Yes, this one will be a presentation on the screen. If you wanted to turn around, Susie Saris with DKS Associates is the project manager for the consultant side. Susie, are you on and able to share your screen?
Yes, sir.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you very much. Turn off the light over here.
And I wrote 15 minute notice came up, so 15 minutes. What is the request? 11 hours, and actually will delay.
Experienced.
I have a data point if you want it.
You there?
Yes, hello.
I thought I just clicked out of the meeting. Good times. All right, so can you see the screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So my name is Susie Sears. I'm with DKS Associates, and I've worked most of my career in operations, transportation operations, planning, and I'm really excited to be bringing this presentation to you today and explain a little bit about TISMO and what we are and what we're trying to achieve. Before I get started, I want to introduce two of my colleagues that are with me today. Joanne Mitchell, who is in the room with you, with Kenny Engineering. She's our local boots on the ground and knowledge. And then Amanda Riley, who's just with me taking notes. All right, so it's not a very long presentation today. I just want to give you an overview of TSMO and what it is, and it's it's one of those transportation acronyms. So I really do welcome questions today. So we'll do what is TSMO? I'll overview the project schedule and the community outreach and some upcoming activities. And just to spot check, can you guys hear me okay? And volume good?
Thank you.
Okay, great. So what is TSMO? TSMO stands for Transportation System Management and Operations. And it is just what it says. We're looking at our current system typically and how can we manage it to be most efficient? How do we preserve that capacity, improve safety, provide reliable travel options? And then I'm going to share with you some of the examples of what TSMO can be. I mean, one of the things that's complicated but also awesome about TSMO is that it really can touch every phase of a project, from planning through design, construction, and operations. And we hit all modes of transportation. The key issue that sort of differentiates TSMO from any other type of project is that it really is targeting specific issues with low cost, high impact solutions. So a lot of times agencies will turn to TSMO in lieu of a large expansion project that may be years in the future. Maybe it's deemed necessary, but the budget's not there. So how do we solve some of these problems in the near term? The other way is that sometimes you can solve some problems without having to have a big expansion that would impact communities and the environment. So on the screen here is a pie chart this is national data, but Texas A&M University updates this every now and then, and this is a very new update of this pie chart. And when we bring in TSMO projects, we're looking at the technical or the engineering transportation term is non-recurring congestion. So if you think of recurring congestion, that's the stuff that happens sort of your AM peak period or PM peak, where you can expect those delays because just more people are on the roads at that time. Those are typically what most projects try to solve, is that recurring congestion. Non-recurring congestion happens, it actually can cause a pretty significant amount of the congestion that we experience as drivers. And it's especially troubling because we are not expecting it. So we may be trying to get somewhere and we can't. So an example here is that if you look at this chart, the blue is bottlenecks. And so that's going to be your continual daily recurring congestion. The other stuff, the majority of the chart, traffic incidents, crashes, work zones, weather, poor signal timing, special events, those things make up the majority of the congestion that we experience. And so that's what TSMO is trying to target in terms of congestion. I will say, however, that in the Anchorage area right now, what we're finding is there's not a lot of congestion to address in terms of the regular congestion, but we do see some of these other issues. TSMO is also really effective at addressing safety. So its calling card is safety and non-recurring congestion. So I'm going to take you through 5 reasons why we look at TSMO. And on the slides, I have some images and I'll discuss kind of what they are, just to give you a flavor of the types of solutions that TSMO offers. So focusing on system management. When I say system management, we're looking at the whole transportation system in the AMATS area, and we're saying, how can we just make this operate in the best, most efficient, safest way for our community for all modes? Some of that, like I mentioned earlier, is signal timing and stuff. The other on the right is a traffic management center. So this is a really robust one. It's got a lot of screens, but all this traffic data comes in, people view it, they can adjust signal timing. This is a robust one. Sometimes it's just somebody has an iPad that they can use, or a portable laptop that goes in the vehicle that or works remotely, so that somebody can adjust signal timing just from wherever they're at, wherever they happen to be. An engineer, of course, with access. In the upper right corner, upper left corner, I want to show there's a group of people talking, and that's called a traffic incident management team. And that's so we can go high technology and we can just go coordination. So I share those two ranges because sometimes just talking and getting those relationships built and understanding what's going to happen when we have an incident, who's doing what, is a really effective way to manage the system. Let me see, I don't think I said that. Advances in technology, I do want to hit on this. Connected vehicles are coming, they're here, but we're getting more and more. What those do is they provide a whole lot of data for us about how the cars are behaving in the environment. And that information gives us a lot of data about how, and information for us to make choices or decisions about how to manage the system differently. So, for example, if we see like a hard braking is you're driving and you slam on your brakes, we can pick that up from connected vehicle data, and we can look at that and say, why is that happening all the time at this one spot? Send an engineer out, take a look, and they're like, oh, I see that there's a visibility issue here, or there's a pothole that's really actually causing a problem for people. So it's really exciting about the data that we're getting. Signal systems are getting more and more advanced. Traveler information and improved detection. A couple other reasons for why TSMO. We have changing community needs and expectations. They're always changing, but with all the data that's available and tight budgets, our citizens are getting more and more interested in participating in and supporting the way we do our jobs and the way business is done. And so they have expectations for us to provide transparency, improve performance, and be good stewards of our public dollars. We have a better understanding of the causes of congestion and crashes, and that can help us target issues. The example with the hard braking is one of those examples. And in this particular project and in some others, equity and health concerns are really coming to the forefront in terms of seeking TSMO solutions. And so Aaron, very forward thinking, and not often TSMO projects are done, I don't know, kind of outside of the public eye, because generally people have felt like the public was not going to be that interested in this technology stuff and putting cables in. But we're including equity in this project and with some great data and performance measures to see how we can provide some of those low cost, high impact solutions to improve the equity and health outcomes for the community. On this screen here, there's a bridge with a flooding, that's flooding, and there's gauges in that bridge that can alert, or in that river that can alert the DOT maintenance folks to come out because the river's rising and we're starting to have some failure of the bridge. So they can do that before people get hurt. And I love this little stoplight with the little flag. It's such a simple solution. It's just a remote setup to protect construction workers in an area for a temporary period of time. AMATS is undertaking a lot of projects right now and in the past, and has some that are recently published. TSMO can look at some of the solutions that are, or needs from those other plans, and again, offer those low cost, high impact solutions. And the other piece, I have the MTP, excuse me, I have the MTP here because we are aligning with the MTP goals. So I just want to confirm that for you. Project status and community outreach. So currently we are working on the vision and goals and identifying the needs, which we've done a lot of stakeholder interviews. I can't wait to share that information with you. And we're developing TSMO performance measures. In November, December timeframe, we'll be bringing a proposed project list with some costs. There's some work between the current tasks and the future deliverables. And we're working with the technical advisory committee on that. So we've got about 6 meetings with that group. Some of you are in the room today. And so I want to thank you for your time and support of this project. So we'll be bringing that technical advisory committee will be working through the performance measures, the project selection and evaluation. And we'll be bringing that information to you for your input as well. We have some upcoming community outreach happening. We have an open house at the end of August. It will be an online open house, not staffed, but responsive. So people send a message or question, we'll be able to respond right away. We'll also be summarizing all of those comments. We believe it's going to go for about 2 weeks at the end of August, and the date hasn't been set yet. We intend to go to the Anchorage Transportation Fair for input and have a draft summary report for you sometime in the winter of 2022. But we'll provide you, I'm guessing we're going to provide you an update before that draft report comes out. Let me see if there's something else. So I think we've got that. We do have a website that we're developing. The link is here, and we still need to populate it with some more data, but we've got the framework of it set up. And I think that's what I have right now. I'd like to ask Erin if there's anything that you wanted to add to the presentation or clarify.
No, just that I'm very excited for this project to kind of help AMATS kind of get some of that more forward thinking in its transportation process. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes with this project. So thank you.
I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Do we have any questions from the committee? Any questions from the public? Looks like you did a great job and everyone's understanding the concept. So thank you, Susie, for your presentation. We really appreciate it.
Great, thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Susie.
Okay, the next item on our agenda is the Fish Creek Trail Project. And Matt is here.
Matt Edge will be giving a presentation. Matt, do you have a paper copy or?
I got a paper copy, sorry, I was not anticipating a full-blown presentation. Aaron asked me to give an update on the project, so anyways, definitely not up to the level of what we just watched there. So, but anyways, my name is Matt Edge. I'm with Sierra Engineering Group. We're under contract with the DOT for the Fish Creek Trail Connection Project, which will extend a new non-motorized trail from Northern Lights Boulevard to the Coastal Trail along the Fish Creek corridor. We are pretty much in the early phases of the project. We've met with stakeholders and property owners that developed several alternatives for routes, just really pretty much hot off the press with several of them. I do have paper copies here. I didn't bring printouts, but I can show the group what we've come up with route alternatives, if you can all see this here. We have separated the corridor out into two sections, the north and the south, with the Fish Creek crossing of the railroad tracks that run the length of the corridor, roughly in the middle of that, separating north and south. So we've met with Alaska Railroad, and they are amenable to routing a trail within their right of way through the entire length of the connection. So that's good news as far as the project goes. On the southern end of the corridor, we have to be in Alaska Railroad right away to get up to Fish Creek. There are about 6 homes on top of a bluff just to the west of the Alaska Railroad that have about 30 feet of the Alaska Railroad right of way fenced in their backyards. So the trail connection initially was going, well, the only route we were looking at was going right through those backyards. Several of the property owners have reached out and not too happy about that. And so we have added another alternative that routes the trail on the eastern side of the railroad along La Honda Drive, extending from Northern Lights Boulevard up to Fish Creek. And from there, it would go through a tunnel underneath the railroad. That's a very expensive endeavor, but it will be one thing that's evaluated in the DSR design study report. That's the orange route, if you can see that here. So the other 2 routes go along the eastern side. One's right up on top of the bluff in the backyards, and the second one would be kind of just in a bench below the bluff, which we'll try to squeeze in there. There is a major fuel line that runs right along that corridor that feeds the airport from the port, and we don't want to affect that if we can avoid it. Then from Fish Creek Trail heading north, that's where we get into the Fish Creek estuary area. And so, as you can see here, there is 3 alternatives there as well. The pink route runs along the west side of the estuary, and that will be a portion would have to be unpaved. That is one of the Great Land Trust estuary easement requirements. So they own a conservation easement in the estuary, and they will not allow any paved improvements. So a portion would be unpaved trail, and then the remainder, once we get down into the tight wetlands area down along the Fish Creek, we would transition to elevated boardwalk, and that would be with fiberglass grading or something similar on steel piles. So our design requirements do require us to be able to support a maintenance vehicle or emergency access. So the boardwalk is not what you see out on the north end of Anchorage or the south end of Anchorage there, but it's pretty robust. So the second alternative would follow some of the uplands along the east side of Fish Creek Trail, and then we would, as we approach the coastal trail, we would go into the uplands are in the estuary, but we would go into the wetlands there and cross. One alternative would cross the Fish Creek with a new bridge and tie in to the west side up to the coastal trail on the west side of the existing bridge. And another alternative that we are evaluating will construct a paved trail across private property and tie into the east side or the coastal trail on the east side of the bridge. That private property is owned by a pretty well-known member of the Anchorage community, and we've yet to approach them about the possibility of acquiring an easement there, but we'll see if that's a possibility. The last alternative will follow the railroad right of way all the way from Fish Creek Trail to the coastal trail and connect into the coastal trail near the Westchester Lagoon tunnels. So there's 2 connection alternatives for that one. The first one is shown here is kind of a meandering, not meandering, but a double curve connection that will transition down into the coastal trail. You can see that right here. And then the second alternative will actually extend the Fish Creek Trail and tie in towards the northern Westchester Lagoon tunnel. So that will actually make a connection between the two the 2 tunnels and construct about 1,300 feet of new trail along the coast. So, that alternative at this point has the least amount of right-of-way requirements. So that all the land along the coast is owned by the municipality, and all the railroad right-of-way is owned by the railroad, and they're amenable to trail connections. So that's actually the least, seems crazy, but that's the least difficult approach at this point anyway. So these are the alternatives that we will be developing in the alternative, in the DSR. We will reach out to affected property owners. Actually, the mailer will be going out next week, and then we'll make contact with anybody that we think is necessary. And then we'll be hosting a public open house this fall. We haven't scheduled the date, but looking probably for October to present a little bit more developed alternatives to the public and get some feedback. So I guess that's about it. Is there any questions with regard to where we're at? Yes, sir.
So you mentioned one of those graphics. There's a pipeline from the port to the airport.
Yes.
Can you see it on the graphic?
Well, yeah, you could if you look closely. I mean, there's a little line that has an F's in there for fuel pipeline. If you walk the area, you actually see it exposed in Fish Creek. As you walk around the corridor, the culverts that come out underneath the railroad, spill right onto the pipeline. That almost acts like a little bit of a dam as it flows down to Fish Creek. So it's not ideal.
Possible to get a copy of that particular graphic?
We will, when we publish it on the website, it will be available to the public.
All right.
I think we want to get just a little bit more.
Well, what some might think is a tourist attraction is now a critical infrastructure concern for me.
Okay.
That you can see that pipeline and people can walk up to it if
Yes.
they so desire. That's a bad thing.
Oh, so where, you mean where it crosses the creek?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the railroad's really on board for this project because people are already walking down that corridor because there's trespass along the tracks. So it is fenced and gated to access that, but people come in, they cut the fence, they walk along that corridor. The railroad wants to control.
So let's
where
put a
people
trail there.
access. Yeah, so.
Yeah.
If we do cross the creek, we do have options to allow for that fuel line to be relocated by the fuel company onto the bridges and things like that if they so desire. But that's really kind of outside of the project scope is to deal with that.
Yeah, well, yeah, okay. At some point though, I would, I've got some folks that are gonna need to wanna see just where that exposed pipeline is.
So the only place it's is exposed is at the creek. Yeah, in the water.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can see it.
That's a bad thing.
Any other questions or comments?
So I want to make just a quick comment, observation, so everyone knows. I was recently doing research on all of the community council's CIP lists. So these are the projects that they'd like to see move forward. This connection was one of the projects that almost every single community council had on their list of projects to get done. So I think over the years, there's been a lot of support from different community councils to move forward on this project. So I hope there's a way forward with it because I think there's a lot of people that would like to see it.
Yeah, and I think we're moving towards that direction. We've met with the stakeholders that are have most, skin in the game, and I think that they are all kind of moving towards the getting a connection made.
So I have a question and
Yeah.
a comment. So question, when, and this is probably not be a guess at this point, but when do you expect to have kind of early financials for how much those different alternatives might cost?
Those will be developed as part of the draft DSR, so which will be published, after the public open house. So I would expect this fall. So that's, after vetting and things like that.
Okay. And then the other thing is just, you mentioned this, but just so everyone's aware, that railroad right of way is right now, those folks that their backyards they put fences across the railroad right of way. So they're not, those aren't their backyards. It's just, I know you mentioned it, but just so people understand that we're talking about putting a trail through right of way, that's the railroads that they're gracious enough to potentially donate or, allow to be used on this, but it's not someone's backyard. They have fences across it, they have structures in there, they have decks, they have tree houses, all that wonderful stuff, but it's all in the railroads right away. It's not their property.
Correct.
40 feet into the, 40 to 30 feet into the railroads right away.
Yeah, it's about 30 feet per. And it's, you know, it's kind of natural for them, you know, they, it's on top of a bluff, they fenced up to the edge of the bluff, you know, wouldn't necessarily do the same thing, but yeah, it does not belong to them.
Any more questions from the committee before we move on to public questions? One question I have is, when will figures be ready? You said not quite yet.
So these are just, these really are just PDFs. I just brought them here. These are what we use for planning purposes with regards to just agency saying, you know, so we can move the lines easy without having to do CAD. We're in the process of putting it all into AutoCAD. We'll lay it out with the survey, which is just complete. I think earlier today is when I got notice that it was finalized. So, so those figures, once they look a little nicer and, you know, we've got the right radiuses in there and whatnot, we'll have those posted. So maybe in a couple of weeks, I'd expect something.
Any other questions from the committee? Okay, from the public?
Yes, sir.
Will the access points just be at Northern Lights and at the coastal trail connection, or will there be any access points along the?
So there's no tie-in connections planned right now. There is, if the paint route went along the eastern side of the estuary, there is a public right of way that extends from the neighborhood down into the estuary that we would connect into, but it's not being constructed necessarily as part of this. We allow access point there.
That's Joanne Mitchell, right? Okay, perfect. Send me your name for the record. Okay, any other questions from the public?
I have one. So Joni Will with AMATS, and I'm the RISE coordinator and also project manager for this Bernard Quarter Plan. And we did discuss this connection as part of that planning process as well. So Bernard Quarter Plans, there's a lot of support from that community to make this connection. And it's a good connection for pedestrians and bicyclists. I think as Craig mentioned too, there are already a lot of people that have been using the corridor, just they're walking very close to the railroad, and that's a liability for the railroad. And so when we were working with that group, they expressed some concern with, you know, if we're going to have people walking here, that's not safe for us. So they were in support of that connection because we can make it more separated and more protected. And I don't know if Mr. Bufo's concerned with the gas line, if that could help keep folks away from that gas line too, because, or fuel line too, because if you make a trail that's separated from that facility, because right now, and we did a walkthrough the other week, it's, you can just walk right by it, and I think people are doing that already, so. Anyway.
Right. I mean, we will be required to fence the entire trail to separate it from the railroad for sure. So we'll have a fence on the entire.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, perfect.
All right, next time I'll have a PowerPoint. I'll make it.
Well, thanks for coming on for notice. Good evening. Next item on the agenda is general information. Anything for that? Okay, moving on then to item 8, committee comments.
I'll go ahead and start us off. As you all may know, Cindy Heil has announced that she is retiring and leaving us. It's unacceptable. I've done everything I can to stop it, but she's out the door already. So, so this will be Cindy's last TAC meeting. I've worked with Cindy over many years now at both DOT and AMATS, and it's going to be sad to see Cindy go, but we're very excited for her to be able to move on and go enjoy life outside of AMATS. And we hope to see her involved in the public process to be that pill, as she likes to say, to be like, did you do this or did you do that? So it'll be good. We actually have a gift for you, Cindy, as well as some treats for other people. I know you've been waiting for this eagerly. So we have cookies for people, which we wanted to wait so we didn't distract people from the riveting presentation. So we'll put those out. And then we have a hydro flask with a nice engraving on there for Cindy's time at AMATS. So I'll just read it really quick. Cindy Heil with thanks and appreciation for the years guiding and shaping AMATS on the Technical Advisory Committee and Policy Committee, 1992 to 2022. So this is our goodbye for people who've been here for a while. So.
92? You should have all the cookies.
Really nice. We used to cut.
So,
Looks like there's about 30 cookies there to celebrate.
the cookies are not all yours, sorry, they're for everyone. I'll put these over here.
Yeah, I started when Mayor Fink was on the policy committee.
Oh, yeah, okay. I know Cindy has been very helpful over the years in kind of keeping things on track with air quality. It's been fun learning from you, so. And I believe the policy committee will like to say goodbye to you as well at the PC meeting later in the month. So anyone is welcome to come say goodbye to her then as well. So thank you very much, Cindy, for everything.
Thank you.
Yeah, for me, having served a large portion of that, working with you at AMATS, I know that I wouldn't have been able to do my job without you being there as, I mean, I always referred to you as the mom of the committee, and some people may not like that, but I looked at it as someone who always was ready to let you know, here's the process, here's what you have to do, and then let the committees, let staff decide what made sense. And you were kind of just saying, I've told you what you're supposed to do. And if you want to step outside that, that's on you, sort of thing. So I just know I could not have been successful and done what I had to do without your assistance. And it wasn't just on air quality. I remember sitting down with you and you just went over chapter and verse on how you do a new tip, how you do a tip amendment. And that was before it was really written up, but that was just your knowledge of having done so many of them. And I could not be more thankful for your assistance.
My pleasure. Great. Well, I mean, everybody who's been here has been wonderful to work with. One of the things that was so much fun in this job, and I really enjoyed it. I mean, I had 6 years on the policy committee and the rest of the time on the technical committee, and it was just a wonderful opportunity to participate in something that's really, really important for the community. It really does make a difference. It takes a long time to get some projects done, but it's really rewarding, and everybody works so hard in this. I don't think the public really understands exactly all the stuff that goes behind the scenes and how hard a job it is. It's been fun. I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I know the public certainly doesn't know what it takes to go from a non-attainment area to a limited maintenance area. That doesn't mean anything to a lot of people, but we no longer have to do IM tests. And our air quality is great. And it's, your knowledge of that is what got us where we are. I mean, a lot of people obviously were working on it, but you spearheaded that. And I know the public doesn't have a clue about limited maintenance, non-attainment, all that sort of stuff, so. Yeah.
Thanks.
Great, thanks, Greg. Any other committee comments? Go ahead.
This is less exciting and celebratory, but I spoke about the electric vehicle, all the action and activity going on right now. I think it was 2 months ago I presented on that. And there's a draft plan for the corridor, which is Fairbanks to Anchorage, that's being worked through the Alaska Energy Authority right now, and there's a public comment period open until July 27th. The plan is due August 1st. It's actually for the state, sorry, it's not just for that main initial corridor. And so that's being done through a contractor, and I forget the name of the contractor, but there's a draft out right now, and you can see it on Alaska Energy Authority's website or through the link that Aaron sent a couple weeks ago.
And send it out to everyone again.
I have an update then, I'll send it to you.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Other committee comments? Okay, well, thanks, Ms. Howe, for all your work and for everything. Glad you could be here today.
I went to the mayor's conference room first, that's why I was late.
That's, well, yeah, as I was about to head down, I thought, it's in the training room, right? Yep, okay. Go in the right spot and I'll be on time, so,
I didn't check.
yeah. I'm glad you could make it. The next item on the agenda is if there's any public comments. Any comments from the public? Okay, I'll see chat and no one's raising their hand, so with that, we are adjourned at 3:41 p.m.
You're off the hook forever.